Hey guys, this is me. Today we are going to talk about how to make small talk. So if you go out with your friends or your colleagues to dinner, what do you talk about? How do you start the conversation? What kind of things do you say? So let's have a look together. And remember, this is real English in real life. So you may say, "I'm your name," especially if you've never met that person before. Or you might use a name if you already know each other. You'd like to relax and enjoy your meal. Here's what you could say. "I've been working non-stop for the last week. It will be nice to finally relax a bit." Descriptive words help us to create a vivid picture in our minds. And they also add color to the conversation. Linking words help us to connect ideas, and they help us to link sentences together. Well, one topic that we often talk about is our jobs. So for example, you could say, "What do you do?" Next time you go out for dinner with your friends or your colleagues, you know exactly what to say and how to start the conversation. And remember, it's not about the words you say. It's about the confidence that you show. It's about your body language, your tone of voice, your facial expressions. So make sure you're smiling, make sure you're making eye contact, and above all, make sure you're relaxed. Relax and enjoy the moment. And then the other person can tell you about their job. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe. And I'll see you next time. Bye. You can ask follow-up questions, and then you can also talk about your job. Another topic that we often talk about is hobbies and interests. So you can say, "What do you do in your free time?" Or you could say, "What do you like to do?" And then this will open up the conversation. And then you can also talk about your own hobbies and interests. Another topic that we often talk about is travel. So you can say, "Have you traveled much?" Or you can say, "Where did you go on vacation?" And then this will lead to a conversation. And of course, you can talk about your own travel experiences, too. And another topic that we often talk about is food. So for example, if you're in a restaurant, you could talk about the menu. You could say, "What do you recommend?" Or if you're not in a restaurant, you could say, "What's your favorite type of food?" Or you could say, "Where's the best restaurant you've ever tried?" So these are all really good topics to talk about. And remember, you don't want to talk about yourself the whole time. You also need to show interest in the other person. So ask them questions about their job, their hobbies, their interests, their travel experiences, and also about their favorite types of food. So for example, if you're in a restaurant, you could say, "I haven't been here before, although I've heard really good things about it." If you're at a wedding, you could say, "The bride looks stunning and the groom is very handsome, too." If you're at a party, you could say, "The music is great. However, I'm not much of a dancer." So you can use these linking words to connect your thoughts and connect your sentences. And this will help the conversation to flow. So for example, if you're in a restaurant, you could say, "The food looks delicious." If you're at a wedding, you could say, "The bride looks stunning." If you're at a party, you could say, "The music is really catchy." If you're on vacation, you could say, "The beach is absolutely gorgeous." So if you use descriptive words like this, you create a vivid picture in your mind. But you also create a vivid picture in the other person's mind, and this helps the conversation to flow. For example, you could say, "Michael, it's nice to meet you." One way of doing this is to ask questions. Remember, questions are really important to keep the conversation flowing, and also questions help people talk about themselves. And most people love to talk about themselves. So for example, if you're at a networking event and you meet someone new, you could say, "What brings you to this event tonight?" If you're at a dinner party and you're having dinner with some friends of friends, you could ask, "What do you like most about your job?" If you're at a wedding and you're talking to a colleague, you could ask, "How did you meet the happy couple?" All of these questions are open questions. So they require more than a yes or no answer. And by asking these questions, you are showing interest in the other person. And this is what conversations are all about. It's not just about you. It's also about the other person. So show interest in them. Ask them questions. Talk about them. And this will help the conversation to flow. Now if you want to be a little bit more formal, you can add "it's nice to meet you." But this is optional. So if you want to be a bit more formal, you can say, "Hi, I'm your name. It's nice to meet you." Otherwise, if you want to be a bit more relaxed and casual, you could just say, "Hi, I'm your name." Or if you know each other, you could just say, "Hi John, it's nice to see you again." So first of all, I think it's important to talk about how to begin the conversation. Because obviously when you first meet someone, you don't just go up to them and say, "Hi, I'm here to talk about the weather." That would be very strange. So first of all, you need to get their attention. And there are two ways of doing this. The first one is to approach them. So if someone is sitting at a table, you can stand next to their table and say, "Excuse me." If they are standing, you can say, "Excuse me," or you can say, "Hi, sorry to bother you." When you do this, you are attracting their attention. And then once they look up and they see you, you can smile, and you can say, "Hi," or "Hello." Okay, so excuse me, hello, or hi, sorry to bother you, but hello. The next thing you want to do is introduce yourself. Okay, now that you've introduced yourself, what do you talk about? Well, one good topic is the reason why you're there. So for example, if you're at a conference, you could say, "I saw your presentation on artificial intelligence. It was great." If you're at a wedding, you could say, "The bride looks beautiful today, doesn't she?" If you're at a party, you could say, "What brings you to this party?" Or if you're in a restaurant, well, this is a good time to talk about the food. You could say, "Have you eaten here before? Do you like it?" So the reason why you are in that place is always a good topic because you immediately have something in common. Now let's say you're in a restaurant. Let's imagine that you're having dinner with some colleagues after work. You've had a very busy week. And now that you've started the conversation, you need to keep it going. Another thing you can do to keep the conversation going is use descriptive words. Another really important thing to remember is to use linking words. So what are some topics you can talk about? So I hope this has been helpful. I hope you feel more confident now. Okay, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up.